You're in a swimming pool. You kick off the wall and start counting. 1, 2, 3. The first 10 seconds are fine. 20, and something starts building. 30, and it's urgent. 45, and your body has completely stopped taking suggestions from you. You break the surface. You gasp. And you're completely sure you know why. You ran out of oxygen. Your body needed more. Simple. You've believed this your entire life. It seems obvious. It feels obvious. Every time it's happened, the explanation was right there. Here's the thing. That's not what happened. The reason your body forced you to breathe at 45 seconds has almost nothing to do with oxygen. And when you understand what your body is actually measuring inside you during those seconds, and why one man on this planet held his breath for 24 minutes with referees watching the clock, you are going to look at the most automatic thing you have ever done in a completely different way. Let's start with the signal. Every cell in your body runs on oxygen and produces carbon dioxide as a byproduct. That CO2 travels through your bloodstream to your lungs and gets exhaled with every breath. It's waste. Your body needs to eliminate it constantly, and when everything is working, it does. When you hold your breath, that CO2 has nowhere to go. It stays. It builds. And deep in your brainstem, in a cluster of neurons called the chemoreceptors of the medulla oblongata, something is monitoring that level every single second. The moment CO2 climbs past a threshold, the alarm fires. Breathe now. Non-negotiable. Here is the part that changes everything. At the exact moment that alarm becomes unbearable, when you feel like you physically cannot last one more second, your blood oxygen levels are still high, not dangerously low. Still high. A healthy person at 45 seconds has not come close to running out of usable oxygen. Their blood oxygen saturation is still well above the threshold for consciousness. The burning, mounting urgency you feel is not your body screaming for air. It is your brainstem refusing to tolerate elevated CO2. Your body is not primarily a system for delivering oxygen. It is a system for controlling carbon dioxide. And that one sentence makes every strange thing about breath holding makes sense. This isn't a small distinction. It's the whole thing. But if that's true, if the alarm fires long before you actually run out of oxygen, what happens to people who somehow learn to manage it? The answer involves a pool in Barcelona and 24 minutes. On February 28th, 2016, a Spanish freediver named Alex Segura Vendrell sat still with his face in a pool of water and held his breath for 24 minutes and 3 seconds. Not deep underwater with special equipment, not in a laboratory, sitting still, face down, referees watching a clock. 24 minutes. Let that sink in. The average untrained person makes it to 60, maybe 90 seconds. Most feel like they are going to die somewhere around 45. Alex Segura sat there for 24 minutes, and his body was not malfunctioning. It was running a program that every human carries in their hardware and almost never gets to use. It is called the mammalian diving reflex. And here's the part nobody tells you. It is not trained. It does not develop over years of practice. It is built into you right now. It fires automatically the moment cold water contacts your face or a breath hold passes a certain threshold of commitment. Your heart rate begins to slow. Not slight. In trained freedivers, heart rate during a dive can drop below 20 beats per minute. Your resting heart rate right now is somewhere between 60 and 100. In elite divers, rates as low as 7 beats per minute have been recorded in a laboratory. 7, a number that in any other context would put you in an emergency, surrounded by people wearing very bodily. Simultaneously, blood begins redistributing. Your peripheral blood vessels in your hands, feet, arms, and legs constrict. Blood gets pulled inward toward the organs that matter most: brain, heart, lungs. A freediver deep enough begins losing sensation in their hands and feet. Their limbs go cold and numb, while their vital organs sit in a warm, oxygen-rich reserve. The body is buying time, one system at a time. And then there is the spleen. Most people spend their entire lives not thinking about their spleen, which is fair. It sits on your left side, does something vague involving blood cells and the immune system, and mostly gets mentioned when a soccer player pulls one. It is not a glamorous organ, but during a sustained breath hold, the spleen does something nobody anticipated until researchers started looking closely in the early 2000s. It contracts. It physically squeezes itself, and it releases a stored reservoir of oxygen-rich red blood cells directly into your bloodstream. In trained freedivers, This splenic contraction can increase the number of circulating red blood cells by up to 10% in under a minute. Your spleen is an emergency oxygen reserve. It has been sitting inside you your entire life. You have almost certainly never once needed to use it. You have a backup tank. It just never came up.
Now here is where the story turns, because everything so far is what happens when breath holding goes correctly, when the body manages the situation and the situation gets managed. What happens when it doesn't is the reason every swim coach, every lifeguard manual, and every freediving instructor in the world says the same thing with the same urgency. Never hyperventilate before going underwater. Here is the mechanism, because most people who have heard this rule have never understood why it exists. Hyperventilating before a swim flushes CO2 out of your blood artificially, dropping levels well below normal, which suppresses the CO2-driven alarm, which means oxygen can now fall far enough to cause unconsciousness before the warning ever arrives. The person doesn't feel it coming. They go under feeling calm and in control. The alarm was chemically disabled. Shallow water blackout kills several hundred people every year in the United States, almost always in supervised pools, almost always fit, healthy, athletic people doing breath hold training. They go under strong. They do not come back up on their own. The feeling of control that hyperventilation produces is an illusion. The safety system it disables is the only thing standing between you and the bottom of the pool. Now you understand exactly why. Here is what puts all of this in a different light.
You have been breathing your entire life, roughly 15 times per minute, more than 20,000 times per day, somewhere around 600 million times across an average human lifespan. Not once have you thought about it. Your brainstem has been monitoring CO2 levels, adjusting rate and depth, managing the entire system without a single conscious input from you. Every second you have been alive, asleep, distracted, underwater, running, sitting in a meeting you could have received as an email. The system has been running quietly, perfectly, without asking. When you hold your breath, you're not doing something to your body. You are removing your cooperation from a process that does not require. And the reason it is so hard, the reason the pressure builds and the diaphragm contract and the brainstem fires with increasing force is because it is... Have you ever pushed a breath hold long enough to actually scare yourself? Tell me in the comments what that felt like when your body took over. And if you want to keep going deeper into what happens inside you when you're not paying attention, next time we're going somewhere that happens every single night, without exception. Why do you forget your dreams within 10 minutes of waking up? The answer involves a chemical your brain deliberately switches off every morning. And the reason it does that is stranger than anything you would guess. That is the next one.